Well, thank you for everybody that has joined us today. We appreciate you being here. You could be anywhere in the world or on any Zoom meeting, but you're here to learn about SEO. Today's topic is SEO and you. Learn practices. I am joined today by Kavi Kardos. She is an SEO manager for none other than Moz. My name is Hank Hoffmeier. I'm the digital marketing infotainer, but I'm also the senior manager of client solutions for the Moz Group with a bunch of different email brands and Moz as well. We're here to show you and tell you about SEO. We are also joined by Haley Sherman. She's going to be in the Q&A section. So if you have any questions, make sure you head over to the private Q&A section and ask your little questions. What does SEO stand for? You may know, or maybe you think you know. Sometimes people have called it something everyone overlooks because no one really uses SEO. It seems that SEO can be viewed as the expensive and high maintenance child of the marketing family, but with a little attention, time, and the right budget, you can build a loving relationship with SEO. I feel like both of my children are very expensive and high maintenance, but the thing is, I want them to have a better life than I have had or I'm currently having. I'm willing to pay for activities and needs that they have so that they have a successful and comfortable life. That means I spend less time by myself or for myself and less money for myself so that I can make sure my children are happy. Any parent would do that, right? I hope so. I view SEO as the same. I need to be active and supportive in my love for search engine optimization, not just showing up, I say I care just every now and then and throw a couple dollars at it or maybe 10 minutes here and there. You need to do more than that. Couple questions, and I want Haley to field these a little bit and let us know later. Kavi and I can kind of reflect on this, but are you currently doing anything related to SEO? A little bit, a lot? Do you outsource your SEO? But what are you doing? Go ahead and use the chat. Let us know what you're doing. And I'm kind of monitoring that while I'm talking, but what are you doing with SEO? Do you have a budget for SEO? Do you spend $100, $1,000 a month? Or do you just say, I don't know, I just do whatever is necessary and spend the money as necessary, or I do all the free things? How much time do you spend on SEO if you're currently doing this? Is it an hour a week, 3 hours a month? How much time are you spending? And do you have any staff members dedicated to SEO? Is it just you as the person that does all the marketing for the organization, company, brand, whatever you're doing? Or do you have a team again, or do you outsource? Go ahead and let us know in the chat. We just want to get to know you a little bit better, to know what kind of content might resonate with you. SEO does not stand for something everyone overlooks, but rather search engine optimization. It's how your brand is found on search engines and helps build your brand visibility. Kavi is going to go into this in detail a little bit. Don't worry about that. But folks that are not doing SEO, or probably not a lot of SEO, might think SEO is hard. But SEO takes time, and tracing practices to profits can be more complicated than with direct advertising. But you need to do the work. If you do the work, trust me, it'll be worth it in the end. Take the time both to learn about developing a smart strategy, so you're working off of current best practices, and you need to implement that strategy with care and patience. You should be doing this with all areas of your marketing, right? Not just with SEO. Remember, SEO is a marathon and not a race. It takes time. Be sure to pace yourself so that you don't burn out right away. You don't want to pull a hamstring when you can see the finish line and not see the benefits of all the work you're putting in. Stay in the game and reap the rewards through optimization and maintenance of your SEO campaigns.
All right, so let's go ahead and back up a bit and talk about some important definitions and our basics of SEO. So most brands and site owners know that they need SEO to some degree. I can see that there are some people in the chat mentioning that they are at least spending some time on it, which is great. So maybe you've heard the buzzwords around search marketing. You can see that your ranking positions in the search engines aren't exactly where you'd like them to be. But even people with digital marketing experience might not have a very sophisticated or up-to-date understanding of SEO. So in order to convince you today that the work is worth the investment, we need to take a quick step back and start explaining what SEO is and how it works. So here's our basic definition. Search engine optimization, which Hank already explained is what SEO stands for, is the practice of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website through organic search results. I also want to quickly define this term SERP, S-E-R-P, since you're going to hear us use this acronym a lot during the presentation. A SERP is a search engine results page, and it's the listing of paid and organic results that Google serves to you once you've typed in your search query and hit enter. So those contain information in a lot of different formats. The way they look has changed a ton over the years, but their aim of providing you with the best information about your search query remains the same. So here's a good way of thinking about SEO. You want to visualize your website as one part of a larger system. And at Moz, to explain how search engines crawl and index pages on the web, we like to use this subway analogy. So we think of a website as a station, and the search engine is like a subway car moving between stations and storing information. The search engine is going to start at some known website and then follow links between pages within that site, as well as links to other websites on places elsewhere on the web to discover new pages that it will add to its index. The search engine's goal in all of this is to provide users with the most useful, accurate, and accessible result for whatever search query they've typed into the browser. And while the primary goal of your work should be the same, to provide your human end users with the information or product or other type of content that they're looking for, you'll need to accomplish that by working alongside and within the boundaries of Google's algorithms, according to the preferences that they've made clear over the years. So you need to understand what those preferences are in order to be successful. Google helps us out with this a lot by providing Webmaster Guidelines that outline the SEO tactics they consider to be manipulative, the ones you don't want to use, and which will cause your site to be penalized in the SERPs. But just because a tactic isn't specifically outlawed in the Webmaster Guidelines doesn't mean that it's a best practice or that it's one that modern SEOs consider to be effective. SEO is a constantly evolving industry, so if you're really serious about doing the best work possible, it's important to keep up with all of those changing standards. Search engines are getting more and more sophisticated all the time, so modern SEOs don't use tricks to make it to the front page of Google. All of our best practices are pretty much common sense when you think about the search engine's goal of providing useful, accurate, and accessible search results. On-page content strategy, developing a healthy external link profile, back-end technical maintenance, all of those things that you can learn how to do will align to that basic goal. So as you plan out your strategy, you want to take a moment to consider how each tactic you'll pursue ties back to the search engine's goal, which is providing better information, and also to your own goal, which is improving search visibility.
It's time to start putting together a framework for thinking about SEO, what it should accomplish, how it works for your website, and how to justify the costs. We're going to try to do that soon. The core benefit of SEO is, when done properly, improves the brand visibility online. There are two primary goals of SEO. One is to provide the search engine with clear, accessible, up-to-date information that helps them find your website, understand it, and organize it within their search results. The other is to influence the SERPs by providing your site's relevance, authority, and trust. With search engines, you put good in, you get good out. By providing information that helps the search engines find, understand, and organize your website, you put yourself in the running to appear in searches related to the content of your site. By demonstrating your relevance, authority, and trust, you boost the likelihood that search engines will choose to rank your site above all others in the relevant SERPs. Higher and more frequent SERP rankings improve brand awareness and perceived authority, which should lead to a higher conversion rate and greater revenue. This is the basic mechanism which SEO helps you make more money.
If you come from a traditional marketing background, you might be familiar with a conversion funnel. It looks like this, and this is an image you've probably seen before if you went to school for marketing or came up in an internship program or anything like that. This is a model that shows how a typical customer moves from awareness of a problem over there on the left to researching available solutions, and then to choosing a particular solution, which eventually leads to a conversion. Good SEO works alongside this tried and true model by connecting it to the concept of search intent and using a content strategy that has the potential to capture users at every stage of this funnel. So let's walk through that. For example, if you own a dental practice, one of your conversion goals might be to get people to book dental appointments online. And a good SEO strategy could help your site appear in searches related to each step leading up to that booking. So in this case, the customer might be experiencing some gum soreness. So they do a Google search for causes of gum soreness. If you have a blog or a resources page on your dental practice website that contains an article about gum disease and its symptoms, and if that article was created as part of a smart content strategy, it could appear as a result for this informational search. Now the customer is aware of that problem and they've gained an awareness of your website as a valuable resource too. So we have another customer who might start considering solutions to this same problem. They do a Google search for how to treat gum disease now that they know that that's what they have. Maybe you've created a comprehensive services menu for your client, which again employs that content strategy you've developed through thorough keyword research to describe how your practice diagnoses and treats things like gum disease. The customer is going to find this page and realize that, okay, their problem requires a visit to the dentist's office. They need to actually come in. And then you have a third customer who already knows they need to visit the dentist. They just want to find the best dental practice in their local area. So they're really close to the end of the sales funnel, almost ready to complete that conversion. So they'll do a search for best dentist in Seattle. And because of your excellent SEO strategy, they find a local listing that includes your website. They see all your 5-star reviews there too, all of that marked up with structured data, and they're ready to convert. Each one of those potential customers landed on your site at various points along the sales funnel. And without that comprehensive keyword research and a solid SEO strategy in place, you wouldn't have been able to capture those users earlier on in the conversion process. You might still show up in local results if you have a good local SEO strategy in place, but you would miss out on all of the customers who were in those research phases and not quite ready to hit the book button yet. Getting more eyeballs on your site at every stage increases the likelihood that you will ultimately be the one to win that conversion instead of one of your competitors, and then reap the profits from it because of brand awareness, the authority and the trustworthiness that you convey by providing informative content, and also because of ease of access within the search results.
SEO contrasts with traditional advertising by casting a smarter net. Traditional advertising puts the brand's message in front of as many eyeballs as possible, but the owners of those eyeballs may not be interested in what the ad is trying to sell. SEO ensures that the brand's message gets in front of customers who've already demonstrated interest in the product by performing a relevant search. It's a more targeted strategy that essentially provides you with qualified leads right off the bat. One of the most valuable things about SEO as a marketing strategy is that its wins are self-reinforcing. Higher SERP rankings drive more traffic to your website. The increased traffic and wider exposure help you earn more links and more other positive feedback signals that are included in Google's algorithms. Google reorganizes your site or recognizes your site as having a greater authority and credibility, which causes them to rank you higher in the SERPs. And then that cycle just keeps continuing, folks. Can SEO work for you and your particular type of business? Hopefully you're still with us. We didn't put you to sleep and maybe you didn't get dragged off to another meeting, but odds are SEO can probably help you. Let's look at a few examples, but just keep in mind, these are only a few examples. There are a ton of tactics on today's menu to help any type of business, and we're always here to answer questions for you. Maybe you own an e-commerce brand that sells products online. You might implement a content strategy that ensures your resource articles, category pages, and product pages all turn up in search results relevant to different stages in the sales funnel. Metadata like title tags, H1 tags, alt image tags, as well as thoughtful product descriptions will be especially important for capturing customers who are nearing the conversion phase. It's also important for you to employ a structured data strategy to mark up product information and reviews. Rich snippets like the one here are used in search results to be more attractive to searchers and tends to encourage folks to click through more frequently. Sites focused on content creation are ripe with opportunity because they're able to answer question-based searches directly. By performing keyword researches that focus on the kinds of questions people are asking, basically going into Google and searching, you can position your site as a definitive source for information on the most relevant topics. If you also create content that provides the best answer to common questions in your field, you'll see that your site will rank 0 or will appear in the featured snippet above the rest of the search results, or maybe appear in the people also ask box featured in the SERP results. For those sites that are dedicated to lead generation, conversion goals are slightly different from e-commerce because there's nothing being directly sold online. But your content strategy can still help captivate users at various stages in the sales funnel and point them to appropriate landing pages on your website. Maybe you're an insurance broker with an online form submission and that's your conversion goal. Or maybe you're a consulting firm and you're trying to generate more phone calls, getting people to call you to book appointments or buy from you. Remember, by matching your landing page content to relevant searches, you're going to bring in more qualified leads. Brick and mortar businesses want more customers to visit them where? In person, right? So sometimes they don't want to pay attention to their website and they don't think SEO is going to help them at all. Most new customers are not going to visit you in person, probably without doing some research online. They're going to look for you, they're going to search for you and do some research. So what you need to do is make sure you have maximum visibility in local search. Because websites are often a lower priority, brick and mortar websites often enjoy the greatest opportunities for SERPs. You could dominate the SERP rankings. Managing your listings and ensuring your business information matches up with the search engine guidelines will help put you ahead of the competition, as well as ensuring your customer reviews are properly marked up with structured data. Even if you're a larger brand and you've already have some name recognition, you can always improve upon your existing success. Remember the self-reinforcing success model of SEO. Websites that already rank high often have an easier time growing traffic and presenting signals that encourage the search engines to continue ranking them at the top of their SERPs. Good PR that earns valuable links or well-planned content campaigns can deliver huge boosts to a site that's already doing well in the SERPs. Remember, also, the bigger and more complex a website is, the more maintenance it will require. Certain things like 301 redirects and 404 errors can really pile up. And in tools that you might be using, you're going to have a lot of alerts for missing meta tags and other small scale items that will increase with the size of the website. Major brands are really busy and having either a dedicated agency or an in-house SEO expert or team helps them really hone in on SEO and keeps them high on the SERPs. Need some help convincing that SEO is for you? Maybe you still haven't bought into what Kavi and I are selling and not selling today or informing you about. Keep in mind that more than half of search engine traffic comes from organic search. 40% of online revenue is captured by search traffic, and 70% of marketers see SEO as more effective than pay-per-click advertising.
Okay, so as SEO experts, we know there are a million reasons why it's a good idea for you to dive into a smart SEO strategy. You just saw some of those on the last slide. But sometimes the best way to persuade your team or maybe a stubborn manager or a client, if you're working for an agency, is to talk about dollars. So let's talk about how to justify the investment in SEO using some cold hard numbers and some math. There are, of course, ways to improve your SEO for free, but realistically, hiring new staff or an agency or using a powerful enough tool suite is going to cost money. And that can be a sticking point for some decision makers. So let's look at how much SEO costs and what the potential for return on investment is. This is going to get a little math heavy, so follow along with me if you can. We've got the numbers there on screen so you can see what we're talking through. This is a conservative projection using our hypothetical company ABC Gadgets, which starts out with a monthly revenue from organic search of about $23,625 per month before any SEO is done on the site at all. And that is thanks to 750 organic average click-throughs per month, multiplied by a 35% conversion rate once customers are on the site. And each one of those conversions is worth $90 on average in revenue. So ABC's SEO campaign, after they've started it, is relatively successful. And through using SEO best practices, they increased that monthly average click-through from organic search by 75. So now ABC Gadgets is seeing about 825 clicks per month coming in from the search engines. We still have a 35% conversion rate once the customer actually lands on the website. So now we're seeing about 289 website conversions per month. And now we multiply those monthly conversions by the constant average revenue per conversion of $90. We end up with ABC making an average of $25,988 per month, which is an increase of $2,363 every month. We'll say that this company, ABC, has spent $179 per month on an all-in-one suite of pro quality SEO tools that their marketing team used to achieve that increase in organic click-throughs. And if you think it can't be that cheap, we will have a surprise for you in your inbox after this. With a 10% click-through rate increase and a $2,363 revenue increase per month, if ABC spends that $179 per month on SEO, then their monthly profit from the time that they start seeing that 10% click-through improvement is $2,184 per month. If that strategy and payoff stays exactly the same, that adds up to $26,000 in profits per year. And that gets you to $100,000 extra dollars in less than 4 years. Your mileage will obviously vary, but you can see the logic here. I know that was a lot of numbers that I threw at you, but the bottom line is by spending under $200 a month, this hypothetical company made $100,000 extra dollars in just 4 years. So let's look at the flip side of that coin. What is the financial risk of not doing SEO work at all, or trying just a sort of set it and forget it strategy that allows your SEO to stagnate? We'll look at your 3 options. So first we have growth, which happens when you choose to invest heavily in SEO. If you crunch the numbers based on your realistic budget and your available resources, plus knowledge of what's plausible within your industry landscape, you might be able to say, hey, if we go with this more expansive SEO package, or if we invest enough so that we can take on a really proactive link building campaign or something similar this year, we think we can get to a 10% increase in organic traffic. You can then contrast that with what's plausible with a smaller investment, which won't really allow you to spend quite as many of your resources on SEO. You can't take on any really growth-oriented strategies like creating an entire resource library, for example, but you can probably continue with maintenance level work like fixing Search Console errors as they arise, writing a new blog post or 2 every month, that kind of thing. Just due to the fact that you're keeping up your SEO generally up to date, combined with adding new products or just gaining a little bit more brand awareness as time goes on, you might be able to project moderate site traffic increases of closer to, say, 1 or 5%. And the worst option, of course, is atrophy. So deciding not to go through with that SEO project, canceling a contract with an agency, refusing to hire an in-house SEO, or withholding budget for tools. So what happens then? There's a couple of undesirable things here. First of all, your website becomes outdated really quickly. So you probably thought about hiring that SEO or that agency or buying a tool in the first place because you were already short on time. And as a result of ignoring problems like old or duplicate content or 404s that need fixing, your site starts to suffer in the eyes of the search engines. And at the same time, your competition is investing in SEO and chugging along at their own moderate to accelerated rate of growth. So you keep falling further and further behind in the SERPs.
Thanks, Kavi. That was great. In other words, you get out what you put in, and hopefully you have decided to put more in or get started, or just going to take a look at tweaking some things if you're already doing great. With larger brands, and I don't know if you are a larger brand or not, but people with established ways of doing things sometimes rely on the same tactics year after year. Maybe you haven't thought about SEO. Maybe you're just doing the same things over and over. It can be hard to break out of the same tired messaging or same type of maintenance you're doing. Adding SEO not only helps you keep up with the changing times, it adds new life to your marketing strategy and helps you develop a more thorough understanding of your audience and your own website. By looking at all of these options, content, and fixing things on your website, you give a better experience to your users. And over time, when done properly, you'll make more money, as Kavi has just proven. How do we make SEO fit into some other things we're doing with marketing? SEO requires a very specific set of skills and knowledge, which does change all the time. I saw that in the chat. It's not uncommon for organizations to have an in-house marketing department that they depend on for social media management, email marketing, and advertising without having to set aside many resources specifically for SEO. They might ignore that a little bit. Even if you feel confident that you're already doing good work in those other areas, you should now understand how SEO interacts with, say, social media, email marketing, pay-per-click ads, Google Shopping, or if you're using a PR agency, how it works with them. This way you can drive greater success. First, let's take a look at social media. There are some really clear ways that social media and SEO can support each other as a successful marketing strategy. These two tactics go hand in hand, and perhaps more than SEO does with any other area of marketing, depending on how both are being handled. Whether or not the search engines use social media signals as a ranking factor is a question that SEOs have had for a long time. The short answer is that there is a connection going on, but are there higher rankings on Google with a correlation, or is it a causation? We have really found out that there is a correlation, but not really causation. And it's easy to see why. The brands that are killing it on social media are also the brands that are most likely to have authority and relevance and do well in organic search. Social media supports SEO by promoting click-throughs from the SERPs and external links, both which are definitely ranking factors in the search engine algorithms. By using social, it helps improve the likelihood that people will recognize the name of the brand that they see and click on it. And when they see it in the search results, they're going to click on it because they are recognizing, right? So basically, if you have relevant articles and you're sharing on social media, people will see that, recognize it, and click on it. If I do a search for, say, basketball shoes, like this example here, maybe I'm more likely to click through in the Foot Locker search results than I am the East Bay search results because I'm more familiar with Foot Locker. Social media only boosts what is familiar by getting brand names in front of more people. And then there are links. We know that content gets shared on a lot of social media channels. It's going to have an easier time earning links on the rest of the internet. Look at this post by Thrillist.com that went viral on social media and got almost 4 million shares across Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Pinterest. The Moz Link Explorer metrics below in the screenshot here also show a high number of inbound links pointing to that page, a lot of which were probably due to people seeing those shares on social media and then linking to it on their website and their blogs and landing pages. And of course, this all works in the opposite direction as well, right? Brands that rank highly in search engine results do better on social media because they have better brand recognition and links to your social profiles get followed more often.
So when we talk about pay-per-click ads and their connection to SEO, we're talking about a couple of different things. There are the pay-per-click ads that you see in search results, like the one there on the left, and then there are PPC ads that you can set up on other platforms like Facebook, which is what you're seeing there on the right. If you're already using social media management or paid advertising services, the odds are that your specialists are working with one or both of these types of ads. So you might be struggling to choose between paying for PPC services or SEO services if you're using an agency or if you're just considering where to spend your money, because you know they both have something to do with Google search. So you think, okay, I'm choosing between paying to show up in the ads that are at the top of the search results or investing time and energy to show up in that non-sponsored area down below. But an integrated approach that incorporates both tactics can actually deliver results that are greater than the sum of their parts. And that's because the combination of PPC and SEO allows you to improve two really important things. Those are testing and visibility. So first, let's talk about testing. Let's say you're Trunk Club and you're investing in both PPC and SEO. So on the PPC end, you test a couple of different versions of ad copy to see which one generates more clicks and gets more revenue for you. You do this in Google search or in a platform like Facebook ads, either way. On the left, you see one version of the ad, and on the right, you see the same ad, but with slightly different copy. If the PPC specialist finds that, for example, the term personal styling there on the left converts better than the term clothing subscription box, they can convey that information to the SEO specialist, who might then decide to target the term personal styling more heavily within the content on trunkclub.com, like in page titles or H1 tags, and influencing organic rankings that way and click-throughs as well. Or if the PPC specialist has been struggling to get per-click costs down on certain ad terms because they're just too competitive or they're too high volume but lower converting, if there's still really important keywords for that brand, the strategy for those particular keywords can be moved over to organic search instead. So if a lot of people are searching for home solar panels, but not very many of those searches are converting via those paid ads at the top, maybe that's a good keyword phrase to incorporate into the SEO strategy instead. Website content can help capture people, as you saw before, who are at earlier stages in that sales funnel, while PPC can then help reel in those who are a little bit closer to being ready to buy. Visibility, as I mentioned, is another important way that these two strategies can work together. So imagine a scenario in which you've never heard of the Nike brand before, but you're in the market for some good basketball shoes. So if you do a search for basketball shoes and you see Nike show up in the shopping feeds ads, the PPC ads, and in organic search, you're probably going to think, okay, these Nike guys are pretty legit because they're everywhere. And that idea gets reinforced even more if Nike ads are showing up in your Facebook feed too. Plus, if your agency or if you have figured out yourself how to do remarketing ad services, you can create even more visibility for customers who might have initially interacted with the client's website or with your website, excuse me, via organic search. There's also an entire world of public relations, which intersects really nicely with SEO as well. Brands that have the resources to engage a PR agency or employ PR professionals often consider SEO services to be a huge boost because of the way that link building specifically can augment PR activities and vice versa. So PR professionals are really awesome at making connections between what their clients are doing and what the public wants to see. They're accustomed to earning media mentions through press releases and putting together influencer campaigns through websites and social media. With an SEO specialist in their corner working alongside them, the PR pro can ensure that those media mentions, the press releases, and the social posts get properly linked back to the client's website in a way that makes Google recognize their value.
Finally, we know that email marketing is something a lot of brands are already working on either in-house or through an agency, and perhaps maybe with some of the awesome tools that are offered within the Moz Group. And it might seem pretty separate from SEO, but it really isn't. Email marketing can help improve important SEO metrics like bounce rate and time on site. And it contributes to a back and forth between the newsletter and the website that leads to better overall customer engagement. The more time a customer spends on your website and less often that they bounce or leave your site immediately after arriving, the more Google thinks your website deserves to be ranked highly. If you're SEOs or if you're creating really awesome content, the email team can share that content via email and expect to see bounce rates and on-site metrics improve. That's because visitors from email links tend to be more engaged with the content that they've clicked on because they've already shown interest in the content on the website by signing up for the email in the first place. Email metrics can help your SEO team get better at choosing keywords and content to place on a website because the email platform can tell them which links have been clicked on the most. The SEOs can then capitalize on the type of content that are bringing in the most visitors, which then contributes to click-throughs from the search results. A combination of email marketing and SEO also allows for improved engagement with your customers. Personalized and targeted emails are perfect places to add calls to action for things like reviews, social shares, blog comments, and more. Every engagement with one of those CTAs can help with SEO too. Business reviews are a huge ranking factor, and social shares and user comments help increase links to websites and click-throughs as well. Of course, you might be skeptical about paying for more than one thing at a time, even if you have the resources to do so. You might be thinking, well, I'm already spending resources on PPC or social media management. I'm covered, I'm okay. But it's not really the case. Without SEO, you're missing out on the valuable ways to maximize the impact of those other marketing strategies.
So hopefully by this point, you're convinced about the benefits of SEO, but you still need to know where to start. So let's talk a little bit about SEO tactics that matter most and that will really help you move the needle. A lot of SEO experts will tell you that the world of tasks and skills in this industry can be generally broken into three groups. So there's on-page SEO, which involves creating high-quality content that's optimized for the keywords you want to rank for, and also making sure your users have a good experience while they're on the site. This is the area that most people think of first when they're thinking about SEO. And if you have any skills in this area, it's most likely to be where they're focused. There's also off-page SEO, which deals mostly with amplifying that on-page content you've created by earning links that point to your site from elsewhere on the web, making your site appear more authoritative and trustworthy to the search engines. And then finally, we have technical SEO, which provides the backbone for that on and off-page work by ensuring that the site has a good enough foundation to get that content and those links performing the way you want them to. But it's important to remember that the most effective way to think about SEO is with a holistic approach that incorporates all three. If you're new to SEO, you don't want to fall into the trap of optimizing a few bits of metadata here and there, or just earning a couple of links, or organizing your sitemap and then thinking that you're all set. You have nothing left to do. On-page, off-page, and technical SEO overlap with each other constantly. And if you're using a tool suite, you want one that will help you manage and monitor everything at the same time. So we are going to talk about SEO best practices and tactics through the lens of the Moz tool suite, which will give you a comprehensive overview of your SEO progress, successes, and opportunities for improvement. When you get into these tools, they can seem a little bit intimidating at first, but I am going to briefly walk you through their capabilities and explain why each primary area of the tool is useful for the work that you need to get done. And if you decide that you do want to dive in and try the Moz tools for yourself, our dedicated onboarding team will also be there to answer your specific questions and more thoroughly guide you through them in the ways that make the most sense for your particular site. We are about to get a little more in the weeds here with SEO tactics and the aspects of your website's performance that you should be paying closest attention to. So whether you're using Moz to keep track of these concerns or not, our suggestions still stand, but these quick walkthroughs that we'll go through here and the screenshots that you'll see will help you understand why an all-in-one set of tools like this is so important for your SEO strategy. So we'll start with Moz Local. This is a publishing tool that pushes US and Canadian businesses' names, addresses, and phone numbers to our partner sites and directories that factor into local search engine results. You need a subscription to Moz Local if you want to use it, and we offer several options depending on how many locations you need to manage. Campaigns within Moz Pro are next, and they're at the core of the Moz Pro tool. A campaign is a project where you track the SEO performance of a website over time. Once you've created a website or a campaign for your website, we start tracking that site on a weekly basis to help you monitor the site's performance and also look for opportunities to improve it. You do also need a subscription to use Moz Pro, but we offer a 30-day free trial, which gives you tons of time to play around in there and lots of subscription levels too. So next we have a couple of free tools, Keyword Explorer, which is a time-saving keyword research tool that helps you find profitable keywords and organize your content ideas. The best part, like I said, is that you don't need a subscription to use this one at all. And the same is true for Link Explorer, which has an enormous link index, the largest in the industry. And you can use that to analyze your current link profile, uncover your most valuable link prospects, create a solid link building strategy, and also track your progress. Like I said, you don't need a subscription to use Link Explorer or Keyword Explorer. You just need a Moz community account. So we'll start with a closer look at Moz Local, which is a tool for brick and mortar businesses that need to ensure that their online presence is healthy and up to date so that customers can find, learn about, and ultimately visit those physical locations, because that's how you get your conversions if you're a brick and mortar business. If you're not a business that people can physically walk into, then you probably won't have much use for Moz Local, but it is incredibly convenient for restaurants, retail, and other in-person locations. I just saw a new study the other day that said that now 92% of in-person visits to local locations start on a Google search. So obviously this is really important if you want people to actually visit you in person. So what Moz Local does is it pushes the names, addresses, and phone numbers, or NAP data, of US and Canadian businesses to partner sites and directories that then factor into the types of search results that you'll see if you search something like pizza delivery in your local area. If you have a brick and mortar business like a law firm or a home improvement store in the US or Canada, you'll purchase and manage those business listings with Moz Local. So let's look at that process. First, the tool helps you make sure that your listing has been verified on Google or Facebook, and then you'll use Moz Local to complete your business listing and get it ready for distribution. So once that listing is verified, the tool distributes the approved data to the major aggregators, search engines, directories, and apps that matter most to your customers, so the places where they're already spending time. And now search engines and new customers can find your local business on the web, which is what you want. Moz Local's automation helps you also by identifying areas for improvement with an overview of how search engines rank your listings and how customers interact with those listings once they've seen them. And it also helps you prevent repeated work by actually closing any duplicate listings that might pop up because of address changes or maybe more than one person at your company creating the listing. Most tools just offer suppression of those duplicate listings, but Moz Local will actually close those listings permanently, which is really helpful. There's also a chart within the Moz Local tool that provides a listing score. That score is an aggregate of how accurate we find your listings to be based on which ones have been claimed or not, any duplicates, like I mentioned before, and address inconsistencies. So that score is a good indication of how healthy your listings are already overall and how much work needs to be done. And it can also help you identify locations that are winning and ones that are underperforming. So you'll be able to identify where you're falling behind by stacking your rankings against whatever competitors you've chosen to track. Instant notifications also give you the ability to prevent unauthorized listing edits, and you'll receive new alerts for reviews as they come in on major platforms too. And finally, you can view your current local and organic rankings, a competitive ranking analysis, and get a sense for the improved accuracy that active listing management provides for you. So our next and most robust tool is the Moz Pro Campaign, which gives you a holistic overview of your entire website success with a focus on the three main areas of SEO. So this here is what the dashboard of a Moz Pro Campaign looks like. This is what you see when you first log in. There's a lot to look at here, so we'll break it down a little bit. The dashboard inside Moz Pro looks like this. On the left, it's broken down into two pieces. So the campaign section shows you SEO tracking for your website over time. Everything in that campaign will be directly related to your website, the one that you're tracking. The research tools down below that are where you can do general web research about your own website or a competitor's, whether you're tracking that site within a campaign or not. So let's zoom in just on this campaign menu. These are those primary three areas of SEO that we discussed earlier, broken down within that campaign menu. So on page is going to include keyword rankings and content suggestions in the rankings and page optimizations tabs. On the technical end, Moz crawls your website weekly and reports any technical issues, major or minor, in that site crawl tab. And for off-page awareness, Moz gives you data about your backlink profile in the links tab. And then the insights, site traffic, and custom reports tabs help you monitor the success of your SEO work and discover what your data is telling you. And of course, report on that information so that you know how well you're doing. So let's take a look at keywords and content first. The rankings dashboard shows you a high-level look at your SERP rankings and search visibility over time. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll be able to see all of the keywords you've set up to track individually, how many times those keyword phrases are searched per month to help you prioritize them, and your current SERP ranking for each of those keywords. If you click on any one of those keyword phrases in that table, it allows you to track your performance for that particular SERP over time, and also take a look at what the SERP actually looks like for that phrase so that you can physically see where you stand against your competitors. Ensuring that your content is correctly optimized for your target keywords is a really basic and essential part of on-page SEO. So in that page optimization tab, you'll see a page score between 1 and 100 on any page that you've chosen to track, as well as a to-do list of recommendations in order of priority to help you improve that score for that page. The recommendations that you'll see there will include a ton of best practices for you to follow, like avoiding keyword stuffing, ensuring your page titles and header tags are optimized for your target keywords, and even tactics related to internal linking and inclusion of content topics you might not have already considered, which can be super valuable if you're not sure what kind of content your site really needs or what to write about. This menu here is also a really great place to learn generally about best practices if you're not familiar with what any of those mean. The second area of SEO is technical issues, which are covered in that site crawl tab. So when you set up a campaign, Moz crawls your site every week, seeking out any technical issues that can impact your rankings or the ability of search engines to crawl and index your site. And then it prioritizes those by issue type and by frequency. And Moz divides those issues into 5 categories. So if we zoom in right here, we can see those 5 types of technical issue. You can prioritize those by issue category or by page and resolve the issues. Below, you can see how making those fixes affects the total number of issues that we've detected, as well as your crawl statistics over time. So you can really see the impact of the technical work that you're doing. So within those types, the first issue type is critical crawler issues, which alerts you to any pages that are currently returning 500 or 400 level errors, which just means that the search engines and users currently can't reach those pages. Crawler warnings show you which pages of your site have meta tags in place that tell search engines not to crawl or index them. Sometimes that's completely legit. You probably do have certain pages that you want to keep out of the search results, but you can use this tool to make sure that those tags are attached only to those pages and not accidentally to the ones that you do want users to be able to find in organic search. There's also redirect issues. So these show you what pages currently have redirects in place that aren't functioning properly. A redirect takes user traffic automatically from one old or outdated page to a new one. But in some cases, redirect chains or other problems can be inadvertently created and cause that movement to be less efficient. The site crawl section in Moz Pro also gives you some information about on-page concerns, like pages that are missing title tags or meta descriptions, which help entice users to click through from the SERP, and also let Google know what your page is about, and problems with content that's either too thin or that's identical to what appears elsewhere on your site. And then the last tool within that site crawl menu is called Performance Metrics, and that's our newest. We're really excited about it. It's coming out of beta now. It's an answer to Google's recent algorithm update concerning site speed and performance, which you may have heard about if you've been keeping up with the SEO news. So Google is putting more of an emphasis than ever on how quickly web pages load and become usable. And the Performance Metrics dashboard shows you how many of your pages are currently meeting the web standards called Core Web Vitals, which are related to those concerns. If you click on any single page from the performance metrics dashboard, you'll see the mobile and desktop scores for that particular page, as well as a breakdown of those scores based on the 3 core Web Vitals metrics and other important indicators of page speed and performance. For each page, this is also a great opportunity to learn about site speed improvements. We provide actionable recommendations for improving that site speed and performance and give you the opportunity to learn more about the technical aspects of the page that affect those areas. So you can investigate these yourself if you understand the way your website is coded, or you can give them to your site developers who can help you prioritize them. And then finally, in that links tool within your campaign, you can focus on your off-page SEO concerns. Your links overview dashboard shows your site alongside the competitors that you've declared, so you can see the links you each have pointing to your sites from elsewhere on the web. You can see domain authority, which is our proprietary measure of how likely a site is to rank based on the number of link-based factors, and how many total links you each have based on, are broken down by the types of links that they are. All right, finally, here is the free stuff that I know you've been waiting for. As I said, we offer 2 tools called Keyword Explorer and Link Explorer that you can use without a Moz Pro subscription, which means you can start checking them out today if you're ready to explore. You just need to sign up for a free Moz community account, and then you'll be ready to go with either one of those. Keyword Explorer is a tool that helps you discover and analyze target keywords. So when you enter a keyword phrase into that search bar, you'll see a ton of metrics related to that keyword that are pretty similar to what you'd get if you were tracking them within a campaign. You get monthly search volume for the keyword, plus our score for how difficult it would be to rank for that keyword based on the competitive landscape, the average organic click-through rate for that particular keyword, and a priority score, which is really helpful because that aggregates those first 3 metrics into one number to suggest how high up that phrase should be in your prioritized list. And you also get suggestions for similar keywords to target based on the phrases that you've entered, as well as an analysis of the current SERP for that keyword. I use that keyword suggestions tool all the time. It's super valuable. Link Explorer is similar in that you can get a ton of data about your site or a competitor's site for free, all related to the site's external links, which are the links that it's earned from other websites. The overview here shows you tons of metrics for a root domain or a specific page within your website. So you'll see the domain authority for the full site, as well as page authority if you're looking at a specific page, the number of other websites that link to that page, and the number of inbound links to the page, which could include multiple links from the same website, plus the number of keywords that the page currently ranks for. So you can also see over time how many websites have been found to newly link to the page or who have recently removed their links. And when you scroll down there, you get even more metrics, including the top pages that link to your page, the top pages within your own domain based on page authority, the most commonly used anchor text for your website, and the breakdown of domains that link to your page based on their domain authority. So that is it for our breakdown of the Moz tools. And I know that's a lot of information, but now that we've shown you what you have the power to do to improve your search traffic and your website success, it's time for us to go ahead and wrap up.
Well, that does it for SEO and you. SEO really needs your attention, and we hope that we've encouraged you to love your relationship with SEO, or maybe start a budding relationship so that you can have better conversions off of your website. Remember, you only get out from a relationship what you put in, good out. SEO does not need to be the spoiled child of the family like my kids, but it needs a little bit of love and a small allowance to get started or to keep going. And basically give it a little bit of an allowance, and what you would get back will surprise you. It's almost like giving an allowance to one of your children and they do some chores around the house. It's a fruitful relationship.
All right, so if you're wondering what's next for your SEO journey, and if any of this information felt overwhelming to you, or if you're just excited to jump in and start tackling that strategy right away, you probably want some help. So that means hiring in-house SEO staff, or investing in the right tools, or working with an agency that has a really good reputation and that you know can deliver results. So as far as the agency route is concerned, if you visit this website, moz.com/recommended, you'll see a list of the agencies and consultants that Moz has vetted and that we trust the most to deliver really high quality, ethical and results driven SEO work. It's a really great place to start if you want to outsource your SEO. If you're interested in trying out the Moz tools that we just looked at, you'll be able to take advantage, as I mentioned before, of our amazing onboarding specialists who will personally guide you through a program to get you fully acquainted with the tools and have all your questions answered. So they don't need to be overwhelming. So remember that SEO is essential for the success of any business that has a website, which is pretty much everybody these days, but it doesn't have to be hard if you just put some thought into it. Rome was not built in a day, and your SEO strategy shouldn't be either. So you want to try out new things, experiment with your site, see what works to drive organic traffic and conversions, and see what doesn't work, and you'll eventually find a formula that works for you.
We do want to get to the Q&A. I'm going to let Haley rank those questions by SERP, right? Because we want to get to the important questions first, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. Kavi, I can stay for a few extra minutes. Not sure if you can,
Sure.
But we'll try to get through some of those. And with that, Haley, who's up first?
Well, we've been answering some of the questions along the way. So I just saw that Greg wrote in asking about whether the free tools could be used for internal web portals. So I wanted to maybe have Kavi chime in terms of how Moz addresses publicly accessible websites versus things that are maybe behind a login and that sort of thing.
Sure. So the Moz crawler works very similarly to the way that a search engine crawler does. Basically, if you've got some kind of gate on your content on any page of your site that you need, say, a password to get into or something like that, search engines are usually not going to be able to crawl those pages, and the Moz crawler won't be able to either. So we can really only crawl pages and report on pages that are publicly available that any user or any bot can get to. A tool like Google Analytics, which is also totally free, will give you a lot of information about what keywords and links people are using to get into your site. Google Search Console does a lot of this too. So that tool will give you information about which keywords people are actually using to search for your site, and then clicking on the most to get into the website that you're controlling. And Moz does some of that too. We definitely have data in the campaign about which keywords have the highest click-through rates, as you saw in those screenshots. So either one of those tools would give you that information.
Awesome. So we had a few other questions that mostly I answered via some written responses here, but one that I thought was interesting came in from Brian. They were all interesting, but one that came in from Brian was around whether or not Google prefers certain tech to be used on websites. So I mentioned to him that it's usually more so around the experience that tech enables and the optimization of the site that the tech enables, but wanted to be sure there wasn't anything I was missing there in terms of anything that Google favors when it comes to different technology you might use to power your website.
Yeah, and I see I'm reading your answer here, Haley, so thank you for putting that in there. I think your answer is pretty great. It's more about as she mentioned, the tools, or the speed that is created by whatever tool you're using to build your pages. So Brian, you mentioned progressive web apps, and you're right that those can be really beneficial for certain types of sites. It's not so much a matter of which technology you've used, which CMS you're using, or how the page loads, or whether you're using AMP, for example, or not. It's more about, has the page that you've created met the speed and performance standards that Google's put in place? So does your user have a good experience while they're on the page? Is the site loading fast enough and becoming interactive fast enough that that users want to spend time there? Google recognizes those metrics and employs them in their rankings too. So if the CMS or the tool that you're using has created a slow or unpleasant site to use, then obviously that is going to make for a worse search experience. But I would say generally speaking, your mileage will vary based on what you have access to and what makes the most sense for your type of site.
Fantastic.
Thank you to Craig for being a Moz Pro keyword research tool user.
Yes, thank you.
So just looking at the Q&A, I think we've got most of them answered. If anyone else has additional questions, feel free to pop them in, but I think we've pretty much covered the ones that were submitted here.
Well, Haley,
Right,
thank you
that's
so
awesome.
much for taking the time to go in and answer the questions, monitor the chat for us. Kavi, it was great co-presenting with you today. And most importantly, thank you to everybody who's still with us now and maybe watching the recording. Hopefully you received some valuable information today. We love to put on these webinars to help folks get better at marketing, whether it's SEO, email marketing, social media, and more. Thank you, everybody, and stay tuned for our next webinar coming to you soon. Have a great day, everyone.